What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Justin Hawksmith channel. In today's video, we're just going to be doing a very quick and easy, simple job that you can do yourself at home. Pretty much you're just going to need 2 jack stands, a jack, and a couple of 1/2-inch drive sockets, an impact gun if you have one. Really helps out and makes the job a little bit quicker. But if not, just your normal ratchet wrench, adjustable wrenches, stuff like that. This job can be done with very minimal tools. The leveling kit that we're installing today is just the simple spacer puck style kit, which is going to go right here on top of the strut. This truck is 4-wheel drive, so there is a possibility that we may have to disconnect just the axle nut right here. We'll kind of know. I'm not sure what size this kit is. The customer just dropped it off. I think it's either 2.5 or 3. Sometimes with the 3-inch, it's gonna sag the suspension so bad that you will have to disconnect this CV axle nut, and it'll just make it a lot easier. You don't necessarily have to. Of course, any brake lines and stuff like that. And then we're gonna take out the top strut bolts and the bottom strut bolt. Sometimes you do have to take off the brake caliper, but we'll figure out on this job. And I'll tell you all, of course, whatever is easiest. So with that being said, guys, I'm gonna go ahead and take the front wheels off. I'm gonna time lapse it a little bit. Probably knock out one side, and then I'm going to walk you guys through the other side and show you any tips and tricks that I learned, or anything that was a little bit tough, or anything that you could do differently than I did that would make it easier for the next time. So I will be right back, guys. I hope you all enjoy this time lapse, and I'll be right back to explain to you all exactly what I done to get this leveling kit installed. All right, guys, so I've got it out on this side, the actual strut assembly right here, which is what you're after. I'm gonna go ahead and explain to you what all just now happened and what all I had to do, and I'm gonna tell you all of the sizes and all of that, and make this a quick video, super easy to follow along with. So now that we're over here on the other side, this side is obviously still together. I haven't took it apart yet, so I'm gonna walk you guys through this. There is a skid plate right here that goes on the front right here, and that's going to kind of block you from getting to these sway bar bolts. It's just 4 12mm bolts, so you're going to want to take your 12mm and take off that skid plate. And the reason that I done this was these bolts can get really seized and they can just spin. Whenever these sway bar end links wear out, these bolts and stuff will just spin inside of that socket. So these sway bar end links are still perfectly good to use because they don't have any like actual play in them. They just are a little bit wore out and the boots are cut. So you could replace these. It's not going to hurt anything, but they are physically still intact. The customer didn't ask me to replace these, so these are still safe and okay to you know, be on here. So I'm not going to say anything on that. Those can be replaced though. But usually whenever you do replace those, you're going to have to take a cutoff wheel and actually cut that off and put new ones on both sides. So you have to disconnect either the whole sway bar or the sway bar end link. In this case, the sway bar end link was seized, and it was just spinning. So I disconnected the actual sway bar from the frame of the vehicle. So that will allow it to come down. So after you get the sway bar or sway bar end links disconnected, you can do either one. It does have a Allen key in here to hold that to keep it from spinning, but that's a 17mm socket, and then you have an Allen key. It's just a stupid design. So next up, you've got one 10mm bolt up here. You have one 12mm bolt right here. So you're gonna wanna take both of those out. You don't have to take this one out. There is enough slack and play just taking these 2 off. The upper strut bolts, these 3 nuts on the top, there's one back in here, right there. Those are a 14mm, so you're gonna wanna take those 3 bolts out. After you pull this Carta key, take off the upper ball joint right here. It's a 19mm. You can use a ratcheting opening wrench, or I think a socket will fit in here. I didn't try that, but I'm pretty sure, you know, a normal short 19mm socket and ratchet will work right there as well. And this stuff is going to drop down enough to where we won't have to take off this dust cap and remove the CV axle from the spindle. We don't have to disconnect the caliper or anything. Right here, there's one Carta key in your tie rod end. So you are going to want to disconnect your tie rod end. And then there is that right there was a 3/4. So I used a 3/4 socket on that. This bottom nut is a 3/4 or 19. Either one will work on that bottom nut. And then after that, that's gonna pretty much disassemble everything that you need to, and you'll be able to pull that strut out. The sway bar is a little bit in the way, but you can finagle it and get that out of there. I'm gonna go ahead and drop the puck down onto the factory strut assembly. And you're gonna wanna reuse the factory nuts. The way this leveling kit is designed, it doesn't have studs, it has bolts. So these bolts are going to then thread into the threads on the spacer. So now we are ready to reassemble it, which is literally just putting in the strut with the new spacer, putting in that lower control arm bolt, reconnecting the tie rod in, upper control arm. Right here's your upper control arm. That goes back into the spindle right here. Tie rod end right here. Goes back into the spindle right here on this little hole. And torquing all of that down. Last thing that you're gonna wanna do, obviously, is reconnect your sway bar. So after you get your sway bar reconnected, you can go ahead and put your skid plate back on, put your wheels on, and then the leveling kit is done. So I'm gonna go ahead and time lapse that, guys, and I hope this video helps someone. After the time lapse, I will show you what the truck actually looks like here on level concrete, and we'll do some measurements from front to rear to find out exactly how level this makes your Tacoma sit. And I'll also figure out what size this leveling kit was that the customer dropped off, and we will go from there. So I'll see you after the time lapse. All right, guys, so we just now finished putting on the leveling kit. It is just about dead level. I think it might be a hair higher in the front. So we're gonna go ahead and get the measuring tape out right quick and measure the tire gap. But as far as like the body of the truck goes, it looks pretty much dead level. Gave it a nice stance and made the truck sit level. It's no longer nose diving, you know, sitting lower in the front. From right in the center, about 7 inches roughly. And then in the front, got about 7.5. So it has about 1/2 inch of that lean. Really looks good. Usually, to the naked eye, about 1 inch or 1/2 inch of lean makes the truck look dead level. So it does look dead level. So one of the things about installing leveling kits and lift kits that people bring to you is every single one of them is different. So for just a basic leveling kit install, just the spacer only, no shock extensions, no sway bar extensions, no nothing, just to disassemble it as you just seen in this video and install a strut spacer, I charge $120. So with this, the customer didn't, let me know that this was a full lift kit pretty much. This isn't really a leveling kit. As it says right there, full lift kit. So, which is completely fine. It's not the customer's job to understand that. But this kit does come with 2-inch rear blocks, which is gonna make the truck sit 1.5 inches lower in the front than the rear. So that's something that, you know, obviously I have to notify the customer about and decide if he wants those put in, and that will cost extra. And then this leveling kit also comes with some differential drop spacers. So that's going to drop your differential down and correct your CV axle angles. I just now reached out to the customer, you know, and told him this. A lot of people get on eBay and just type in leveling kit, and the way these companies are, it's kind of weird. You know, you can buy like the spacer that goes on the strut for like 50 or 60 bucks, or you can buy like this whole, you know, lift kit, but it's labeled leveling kit. It makes no sense, you know, for just a little bit more. So these differential drop spacers, I'm going to highly recommend that customer lets me put those in. They don't really look like the best quality, but I would still recommend that he let me put those in, because that is going to correct your CV angles and help out a lot. The rear blocks, if it was my truck, I wouldn't put these in, because the truck only has 1/2 inch of lean. It looks pretty much dead level. If you're going for the leveled look, obviously making the truck sit 1.5 inches higher in the rear almost takes you right back to that factory look of, you know, being higher in the rear than the front. So maybe a 1-inch block would not look bad at all. That's going to give you just 1/2 inch of rake. So that's going to, you know, allow you to tow stuff and all of that. This would probably still allow you to tow whatever the max capacity is of this truck without having any squat whatsoever. So maybe that's why they design it like that. But I just hate how they word it leveling kit, and it comes with a rear lift, it comes with a front lift, and it comes with more components than just the leveling kit, which anything over 2.5 inches requires differential drop spacers and sometimes upper control arms and stuff like that. And not really that it requires it, but it's highly, highly, highly recommended. I highly recommend it. Pretty much just the leveling puck. If it's a 4-wheel drive, a 2.5 inch puck is all that I like to install. I do charge extra on a 4-wheel drive if I have to install more, or if it's a Chevy, I charge a little bit more because you have to cut off the bump stops like on a 3-inch, and so on and so forth. So not quite sure what we're going to do yet. I'm going to go ahead and reach out to the customer, and then I'll get back with you. Okay guys, so that is going to be all for today's video. I hope y'all enjoyed it, and I hope that this helps somebody out there in the world tackling their first leveling kit. I sure remember whenever I tackled my first leveling kit. It can be scary, but just always remember, guys, it's just nuts and bolts. And yes, you can mess stuff up. Yes, you can run into problems, seized bolts, rusted bolts, bolts that break. But for the most part, you know, a leveling kit, I have faith in you all. I think that you all can pull this off. And if not, most shops don't charge much to put one on. I think all the local shops around here charge around $150 to $200 to, you know, install just a basic leveling kit. And some of those shops, that's including the alignment. So I don't have an alignment rack here at the shop. That's why I'm just a hair cheaper. So they obviously, you know, have workers that just make X amount of dollars an hour, and they can, you know, knock it out pretty quick with 2 or 3 people, quicker than I can. That only took, I don't know, probably like an hour and a half. So still, you know, you're making $100 an hour, a little bit more actually, pretty much $120 an hour. And which obviously my first leveling kit, I remember my first leveling kit like it was yesterday. It took me like 3 hours, 4 hours, maybe even longer. But I didn't have any of these videos or anything like this to help me out. There was a couple of videos back then on YouTube, but not on my exact make, model of vehicle. But yeah, I hope this helped you all out. I'll have to Google the year models of the Tacomas, or if you want to comment down below what year models this will work for if you're a Tacoma guy. I'm not really sure. I'll have to look it up, what generation and year models are all the same. I'd say they're all pretty similar. But anyway, guys, always remember, everybody starts out as a nobody, and I'll see you in the next one. I hope you all enjoyed this, and I hope that it helped you out. Peace.